Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Uh, we'll start this again. This is the figurative flashing of the lights to let you all know that the meeting will begin soon. We will be starting shortly. This meeting is being recorded. People are still starting to filter in, so we'll give just another minute and then we'll begin shortly. Thank you for your patience. Well, I think we can. Eric, you ready to start? Yes? Okay, here we go, friends. Hello and welcome. We are ready to begin. Please keep your device on mute. Hello and welcome. We're ready to begin here with this evening's showing of Final Design. It's time for the tides. Excuse me, I'm Heather Altman, the Project Public Engagement Coordinator. I'd like to start by saying that this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to the LCWA website after the fact. So if you missed part of it, want to see it again later because you're so impressed with the designs, check back to the LCWA website probably next week when it's be available. I'll let you all know. Also, just some rules of the road. Silence is golden. We asked you to keep your device on mute. There will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting where you can either provide verbal comments if you want. We will also be reading messages that have dropped in the chat. So feel free to put something in there at any time as we go through the presentation. So today's main characters, we have Eric Zahn, the project manager project manager of the Southern Los Cerritos Wetlands Restoration Project. He's a principal restoration ecologist from Tidal Influence. We also have myself, yours truly. I am the principal of Altman Environmental Consulting, and as mentioned earlier, I'm the public engagement coordinator for this project. So we have a 5-act screenplay for you today. In Act 1, we will be setting the scene. In Act 2, we will be defining the characters. Act 3, developing the plot. Act 4, why you all are here, premiering the design. And then Act 5, because we're having fun here, this is a good thing, we're going to tell you how we're building a buzz. So with that, I would like to introduce Act 1 and introduce Eric Zahn. Eric?
Thank you, Heather. I'm actually a little distracted because I think somebody threw something at the screen. You see that little red line over there? That's kind of fun. Someone do some drawing on the screen. So, um, welcome everybody. This is an exciting evening, and I'm so glad that you could all be here to share this with us. As Heather said, we have 5 acts in front of us, and we will get started with Act number 1. Set the scene. Understanding the setting of your restoration site is one of the first things you do. And for this particular project, looking at the historical ecology was really important to understanding the setting. So we were able to gather information about what the site may have looked like in the late 1800s and overlay it on current conditions. And really, what this tells us is that there used to be 2,400 acres of coastal wetlands in the Los Rios Wetlands, Alamitos Bay area historically, and that most of these wetlands were vegetated wetlands, which you can see in this green color. And they were fed by large tidal channels that came from the Pacific Ocean that you can see here in the blue. And what else we can do is look at the location of our planning area in the southern Los Rios wetlands, way down there in the southern eastern portion of the historic footprint. And see, first of all, just how diminutive 100 acres looks compared to what once existed, and then give an idea of the different types of habitats that existed in that particular area versus others. After we look at these historical ecology perspectives, we often then analyze historic aerial photos, and people just love these, so love showing them. But here is these will all be aerial photos from overlooking the project site in Seal Beach, and this is in 1928, and oil was discovered in 1921 in Signal Hill, and subsequently it was discovered in 1923 in the Seal Beach oil field. This instantly changed the landscape with all of the oil exploration and new infrastructure that was built. And just check this out. Look, I never saw this before. This massive tank farm that existed right near the current entrance to Gum Grove Park up on the Marina Hill neighborhood. And you can see all this other infrastructure all around and these oil sumps popping up. That means people are actively drilling for oil. And this is part of that process. Also, the San Gabriel River is being channelized at this time. However, the historic San Gabriel River still has its same orientation as it did in the 1880s. You can see this is the little tiny skinny San Gabriel River that used to wrap through. And here it still is coming through the site and actually a portion of it on our project area. 10 years later, more fill has been placed in the wetlands, and we're starting to lose our historic channel system. And they're creating new drainage channels to help to drain the land and get the water shed off the site. The historic San Gabriel River footprint now has been truncated and is emptying into this new channel. And since we have this big new river, we need a big road going over it. So Pacific Coast Highway has been built. Before, the 1930s, you could not drive easily from Long Beach into Seal Beach. You had to take the red line. 16 years later, in 1954, the San Gabriel River is fully levied off. So that's the new San Gabriel River, while the old San Gabriel River is draining into the new San Gabriel River, actually terminating at a point that is currently the footprint of Zedler Marsh. A new development can be seen on the land owned by the State Lands Commission, and two Quonset huts have been installed here at this point, and those eventually would become the location for the Airport Club and then the Marina Palace. The LCWA's property, the Southern Los Rios Wetlands, is currently now connected to the San Gabriel River to tidal waters by a small culvert, which I'll show you a picture of in a moment. The early 1960s, the land is almost completely filled, and we've lost almost all of the historical wetlands. And much of that fill is being generated at this point by the excavation of the Haynes Cooling Channel. And if you look down at the bottom, you can see some homes starting to be built down on the hill, or Marina Hill in Seal Beach. And what's been there all along, though, if you've been seeing, is Gum Grove Park. Gum Grove Park has been in place for over 100 years. It was here before this land started being manipulated and before these homes. 7 years later, Haynes Cooling Channel is completed and the site is almost completely filled. And finally, in 1972, the year the Coastal Commission was formed, every square foot of land has been altered in some way, shape, or form. But wait, hope springs eternal. Thanks to all the new drainages that have been put in place, new wetlands are beginning to reestablish themselves along those drainages. So perhaps not all is lost in this tragic story. Unfortunately, all was lost for most of that historic 2,400 acres that used to exist. If you overlay the current conservation area of Los Cerritos wetlands, 500 acres, signified by this red dotted outline here, um, you see just the expanse of urban development that occurred. And outside of some areas of Colorado Lagoon or Sims Pond, almost all of these wetlands have been lost to urban development or dredging for open water recreational purposes. Looking closer at the program boundary in red, you can really see all these urban uses coming right up to the edge. But the areas within it still having promise. And in blue, you can see the footprint of this project area of the southern Los Cerritos wetlands, aptly named because it is the southernmost 100 acres of this complex. Looking at the project area from an aerial perspective, current day, one thing I want to point out is that there actually are two landowners that are part of this project. The State Lands Commission still owns that property that I mentioned earlier, 3.5 acres, and the Los Cerritos Wetlands Authority, who I'll introduce in a second, owns the remaining 100 acres of land that are part of this project. Looking at the state lands property on the ground, you can see there's that culvert I mentioned. So this is the only thing that is connecting the project area to the ocean, to the tides, is this one small culvert here. And that's really the crux of this project. Not enough water flow, not enough tides coming in and out of the land. And if you look at this overview, you can see the remnants of where the Marina Palace used to be. Now it's just a big concrete slab that has a lot to be desired with its aesthetics, to say the least. Looking at the LCWA property in current conditions, yes, 100 acres is expansive. It's a big open space, and there is water out there, as I mentioned, but it's not enough water. The tidal range is too small, it's muted, and the wetlands that are supported, that have survived or reestablished themselves, are not functioning at the same level as they should or would if they had the correct tidal connection. And while there's a lot of plants growing outside of the areas that are barren from heavily saline soils, the plants that are growing out there are almost predominantly non-native and often invasive species. Even these beautiful little yellow flowers, that's one of the most invasive plants that we have on site. Just take a second to remind everybody to please mute your devices. Thank you. And that brings us to Act Two. Now that we know the setting, we need to learn who the players are. So in Act Two, we will define the characters. Maybe we'll find some heroes who can help turn this around for us. Oh, the Los Rios Wetlands Authority, just what we needed. So the Los Rios Wetlands Authority was formed in 2006 with the mission to protect, restore, conserve, and manage all of Los Cerritos wetlands. It's a joint powers authority between the cities of Seal Beach and Long Beach and the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy and the State Coastal Conservancy. Um, that entity not only can own land, but they also perform planning And in 2011, they initiated a comprehensive planning effort to start understanding what could be done with all of this 500 acres of restorable land. In order to do this, they needed to acquire funding. And throughout the different phases, from conceptual restoration to the program EIR to the project level design, the funders have been supporting the authority in their mission. And big thanks, obviously, to the Coastal Conservancy and the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, who through these first three phases were providing consistent funding, but also entities like NIFWIF, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the County Community Foundation have been uh, matching funders as well. And currently, for the work that is happening right now and the construction that'll be happening very soon, the funders are the Coastal Conservancy, who provided $26 million. The Ocean Protection Council has provided $6 million, and AES, who is also providing funding through a community grant program that they operate. So all this funding is going to support a team. And here is the defining roles of all of the characters that are playing a part in this saga. And at the top is the governing board of the Los Cerritos Wetlands Authority, who makes all the decisions along the way as we proceed. They are supported by one representative from each of their staff who make up the LCWA steering committee. And the steering committee is supported by a consulting team, a project management team, which then helps to manage a team of technical experts and consultants. Now, you'd think that all those people would know everything, but that is not the case. Everyone then is supported by two advisory entities, a technical advisory committee who provides expertise as either scientists, practitioners, or agency members, and the LCWA's Tribal Advisory Group, which is a group of tribal community members who come together and provide advice on everything having to do with tribal access and planning. And really, these are the stars, these are the heroes. So I want to take a second, since we're at this big milestone, to celebrate the people that by name that have been involved. And I see some of them, in the crowd tonight. So, first of all, the governing board, Christina Duggan, who acts as the chair, and Joe Kalmick, who I see here tonight on screen, who is the LCWA's vice chair, Amy Hutzel, and Roberto Uranga, who act as board members for the LCWA, as well as their staff members. Mark Stanley, who is the executive officer for both the LCWA and the RMC, and one of his supporting staff members, Chad Oberly from the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, who I see in the room tonight, as well as Sally G from the State Coastal Conservancy. These are the people that are working hard to make sure that the public processes all go correctly and really oversee the consulting team. And here's a team that I have personally managed over the past year and a half, actually longer, but at least the last year and a half for the work that we're presenting today. And they have done just a tremendous job in a short period of time with very, very challenging circumstances. So want to take a second to recognize these design team stars. First of all, the folks on my team, Nessa Frechette, who I know is in the room tonight, our deputy project manager. Hey, Nessa. Um, Megan Wolf, who has been our person coordinating all aspects in the field. I think Megan's here as well. Um, Mark Hannaford, who's been in our back office doing all of our financial and grant management work. And Moffett and Nickel has been the engineer that has been leading this, and they've been managed, their team, by Chris Webb, who's been involved with Lester Wetlands for longer than he wants to admit. And their lead engineer is, Carol Eldon. And they are supported also by Craig Frampton, who has done most of the CAD drawing and grading for the project, and a permitting specialist who I've been working with for a very long time, Kim Garvey, who I know is also in the room. I see Carol is also in the room as well, so feel free to say hi. Um, They have a team of landscape architects from MIG, Jenny Zell and Jessica Roberts, who you'll see some of their work later on, who have really brought this whole project to life. And then lastly, you all met Heather Altman from Altman Environmental Consulting at the outset of this meeting, and she has been supported by two excellent outreach specialists, Amanda Hedgecock and Shelby Basaccio. So thank you to all those people. Thank you for taking the patience for me to say all their names. I just really want to recognize people because this has been a lot of work and it's a big milestone. So now that we know who our stars are, we can go on and talk about our future stars because we're heading towards construction. So there's a lot of work to get the design, but I also want to introduce folks to our construction team. These are folks that you're going to get to know in the future, and that I'm really excited to see them step up and make a difference. So back in May, the authority brought on a a construction management team, the firm Sarusa Engineering, and they've seamlessly integrated themselves into our team and will be taking the full reins once construction starts. And just yesterday, the LCWA governing board approved a contract with Philbin Construction Company to act as the general construction contractor for everything except for the landscape installation. And so we couldn't be more excited to have them on board, and that is going to be really the last piece of the puzzle as far as team members to see some of this come to reality. And we also have a really important group that I want to make sure that we mention because cultural resources are really important on site, and that's Cogstone, who will be managing all the cultural resource efforts to protect and minimize impacts to cultural resources on site during construction, which we hope to start as soon as November. So now that you know all of the characters and who's been involved with this project, it's time to understand what they've been plotting. So Act 3, we're going to develop the plot. Like I said, we've been doing this since 2011, and we started off with a conceptual restoration plan, and that process took 4 years. And as part of that process, three different alternatives were developed for the entire complex. The first one was a minimum alternative, which essentially imagine what could be done with light grading and work that mostly worked with the existing topography. A moderate alternative, which had a little bit more intensity of earthwork, but not the most that could be done. And then a maximal alternative, which was essentially if we had no constraints at all and all the money in the world, what could this place look like? And for each of these alternatives, which were developed with the technical advisory committee close at hand, we also overlaid other aspects like these images show different public access approaches, and some of them were quite creative, like putting a bridge across the Haynes Cooling Channel and having a trail that goes all the way through the wetlands. And some of those creative ideas did not make the cut. But it takes all these creative ideas to eventually find the ones that stick and that become part of the project. And I'm here to tell you the trails through the wetlands did not make the cut in southern Los Cerritos. From that conceptual restoration plan, then a CEQA process started to review and analyze the potential environmental impacts of doing this restoration project across the entire program area. So a program EIR was initiated in 2017 and was certified in 2021, January 2021. And here's a image of what was conceived as part of that planning effort for the southern area. And these graphics are very basic. They were not looking at where exactly the channel should go, but it was just trying to understand impacts and not necessarily all of the ecological aspects to a restoration plan. And so we recognized that, and we had a lot of feedback from the public. And just subsequent to the certification of that program EIR, the authority approved a habitat restoration plan in June of 2021 that was focused much more on the ecological restoration of this land and all the intricacies of where tidal channels should go and how these habitats should be restored. So it was much more a softening of the program EIR, which is just what we needed in order to tier this off. And so the southern Los Rios wetlands were the main focus of this habitat restoration plan because we knew that it would likely be the first project that would be ready for implementation. So if you see this graphic was very much used to then be churned into engineering designs. And if you've been following along recently in 2023, these are the designs that were developed at the 65% design level and used for the LCWA's mitigated negative declaration for this project. And so it looks very similar to that 2021 graphic, but it has been slightly updated so that it can be closer to something that can be constructed. But still, just because you're at 65%, there's a lot of work to do. And so what we most recently shared with the public are the 90% designs. And these designs are really focused on constructability and understanding all the aspects and starting to write specifications for how this project actually gets constructed. And you think 90% design, you're almost there. But the last 10% are actually the hardest 10%. And so that's what we have to share with you today, the 100% final designs. So now we have the plot, and it's time for what we've all been waiting for, to pull back the curtains on Act 4 to premiere the designs of Southern Los Cerritos wetlands. This is really the first comprehensive design plan that's ready for construction for this conservation effort, and I'm really excited to share it with you. And here it is. Ta-da! Isn't that beautiful? I'm joking, but not really joking. This is the title page from the very intense design plan. And to see final design plans on this title page and see the eventual signatures that went onto it really meant a lot to our design team. This is not exciting necessarily to look at, but it is really demonstrative of what this takes because it's not just pretty pictures necessarily. It's this. If you want to get really excited, here's the final index of the drawings. This is 166 sheets of engineering and landscape drawings. There's grading plans, there's channel profiles, there's water lines, there's bridge designs, there's soil borings, there's irrigation plans, all in here. And this is all the information that these contractors needed to put together their bids and determine how much it would cost them to do it. And eventually, this is what Philbin Construction has to follow. These 166 plans and every single little call out. This is just, I swear this will be the last CAD drawing I show you, but this is the site plan that is the final site plan. And each one of these call outs then leads to a variety of sheets that have their own call outs and that all go to a thick volume of specifications. And so this is a lot of work, and this is where all of this funding really gets spent is making sure this is perfectly detailed so that we get everything that we want out of this wetland restoration project. So, all right, done showing the black and white. We really have some pretty pictures to show you. So, here they are. So here's that existing conditions slide on that 103.5 acre planning area. And here is a rendering of what we believe this will look like when phase one is completed. Voila. And you can see these new tidal channels being built as we churn these uplands into wetlands. I'll do that one more time just because it's cool. Fade it out and fade it back in. And you can see that the new trail systems start to come in. And you can see areas of preservation that we're not touching at all, that we're working around because these are already those established or reestablished wetlands. So this is how we envision the site will look like after this first phase of construction. And then here is when it's all said and done, because we have fully planned and permitted both phases, but phase two won't come for a little while until we can have the connection to the Haynes cooling channel. But, we just want to have everyone understand that we fully planned and designed the full 103.5 acres. So I'll do that one more time. And you can see some of the things that change. You see this little stub off right here. It's not quite connected to the channel. But when we complete the restoration, the project will need to be connected to the cooling channel, and then we can extend these tidal channels all the way back here. We also have experimental plots set aside for researchers to understand the impacts of climate change and sea level rise. And we've maintained these areas like this. This is existing salt flat that will hopefully be restored into salt pans as part of the restoration. So very exciting images that have been produced by some really talented landscape architects. And yeah, just to further showcase what this might look like. Here's so if someone's standing at the entry point to Gum Grove Park might see right now. Not much to look at. It is open space, so that's always nice. But what we believe it may look like one day is something like this. And you can see the people along the trail and the new tidal channel and the new wetlands coming in. I'll do that one more time as well so we can soak it in and how the landscape may look once this project is implemented. Here's another bird's eye view of the current landscape, and here is an ibis's eye view of what it may look like in the future. So really revitalizing the land, but also getting people back out there to see how small those people are next to these trees and look at this expanse. It's really going to be something tremendous for the region and the citizens of Seal Beach and Southeast Long Beach. We also give different perspectives on what it may look like. So here's a more focused graphic that some of you may have seen at one of our public outreach meetings, but this removes all of the renderings and really just focuses on the trail connections. And so we'll have a new trail system that will be able to take people from Gum Grove Park through the LCWA's land, through the State Lands Commission's land, to the San Gabriel River. And there'll be a variety of overlooks throughout, and you can see all the trees, lots of trees all over the place, and also a special gathering place designed specifically by our tribal advisory committee for tribal gatherings, as well as a community hub that is for use by everyone. It'll give you a little closer view of this. Some of you may have also seen this already, but hopefully it gives you a better picture of how everything fits together. Here's the gathering place that the tribal advisory group has designed. Um, and while it's set aside specifically for their use when they're not using it, it will be publicly accessible because it's got the best darn view of the whole place. And you can see all of the screening trees all around it. And this location will be a monument that will be designed by a tribal artist to celebrate the historic original occupants of this land. And we're told by our tribal advisory committee that this will be the first monument to these people in this region. So we're really excited about that, but I can't tell you what it's going to be. We're not unveiling that yet. Um, Here's parking. 30 parking spots for normal cars, as well as bus parking spots for all the school kids that we expect to come here and explore, and then also ADA accessible parking as well. And here's a trailhead to the state lands parcel, fully re-landscaped with all the plant communities that you could find if you walked all of the trails. You could find just on a little 10-minute jaunt if you only have a little time to pull off PCH and explore. You could see all of that just around these trails, including a little depressional wetland right in the middle. Um, there's also a play zone for those like me who have kids who are quite rambunctious and you can't trust near anything delicate. This is a great place for them to hop around and stay out of our sensitive habitat areas. And here is that former mess of a concrete slab painted with the historic wetland extents and some of the creatures that we find throughout the wetlands, and many of them have significance to our local tribal community. And this is the gate from the San Gabriel River with a variety of places for people to park their bikes so they don't ride their bikes on our trails, especially their e-bikes. And these are some on the ground renderings of what we think this may look like. Here's the current condition of the site on the left. looking southwest from the north entry, so Long Beach to your back. Looking out, you can see here's the little play zone with stumps made from palm trees that we've cut down. Um, and also some of the palm trees still left in place, cut off the top and put nesting boxes on top for our native birds while the trees are growing up. And here's people using the revamped slab area on the left and some interpretive signage. This is looking at the depressional wetland, actually the people right in the middle of the depressional wetland feature. This is what it looks like currently, not a depressional wetland, a little depressing, really. Um, and we have repurposed some of the concrete that we have to remove from the site to support the decomposed granite trail, raise it out of the wetland, and provide ADA compliant surface for all abilities to use. This is my favorite shot. This is the place I'll be hanging out personally. This is on top of the slab, looking towards the east across the wetlands from this new visitor amphitheater. And this will just be the place to be during high tide. All you'll see is water. And then at low tide, it'll be mud flats. So it's going to be very dynamic, much more dynamic than what we're seeing out there right now. And then finally, from essentially that perspective, but looking back towards the river, you can see some of the new areas where we'll be hosting educational programs. This will store education materials and different activities for school children, and we'll have picnic tables and different benches for those activities. And you can see lots of trees. This site will have lots of trees for lots of shade, all native varieties of trees to replace all the palm trees that are out there. And looking at these designs, I've mentioned some of the project merits, but I just want to recognize that this project goes beyond just checking the boxes, but really exceeds and is an example of how these coastal wetland projects should be designed and the features that they should consider. So coastal resiliency has always been the backbone of this planning effort. Building a site that has wetlands now, but also 50 years into the future is something that we have incorporated. And we have those existing tidal wetlands, so preserving them while expanding and restoring new areas has been really something that the public has expressed as important, and we have held on to throughout the project. I already mentioned our close interaction with our local tribal groups, and they have been part of this design process the whole way through. We just had our 12th tribal advisory group tag, or we call it tag, our 12th tag meeting this afternoon, and shared some of this with them. And they become my friends, and they're tremendous supporters of this project. We have scientific research incorporated into the project with experimental plots, and we'll actually have researchers starting at the very beginning collecting data on carbon sequestration. This project is fully compliant and incorporates the Wetland Recovery Project's new regional ecological monitoring program for our pre-construction monitoring and 5 years of post-construction monitoring. We've been working with Conservation Corps of Long Beach already for many years, and they will be our youth workforce who will actually install the landscaping. So the current general contractor, they don't do any of the landscaping. They don't install any of the public visitor amenities. That's all going to be done by the Conservation Corps. We will still have the stewardship program also involved and have a side project as part of this on the bluffs that the community, all of you, can come out and work on while this construction project is going on, and really it gets to experience what a large scale construction project looks like while killing a bunch of ice plant. Uh, the community connectedness is already something I talked about, but I'm really excited to see people walking more instead of driving short distances from the residents to get to places like Trader Joe's. And lastly, the thing that makes me most excited about this project is it's not a mitigation project. This is not being funded by somebody who has impacted coastal habitat somewhere else. This is being funded almost 100% by state funding for these purposes. So again, thank you to our funders. And that brings us to our final act. We have not just come lately to talk with all of you in the community. We've been talking with you for a long time. So I'll hand it off to Heather to build the buzz.
I get to talk about fun stuff we're doing. Okay, building a buzz. Next slide. There we go. Okay. So as Eric has shared, there have been a number of planning processes, analysis processes to date. LCWA has really gone above and beyond that which was required in trying to reach out to the community, reach out to the agencies. All of the TAC here, TAC, that stands for a Technical Advisory Committee. Those were where any agency you can think of practically all convened and provided feedback at key points during each of these restoration processes. We had a number of meetings, number of workshops, number of public access surveys. This here, I want to say, is a picture from the program EIR, maybe the first workshop. This is at the Seal Beach Mary Wilson Library Senior Center. So we've been in and around Seal Beach and Long Beach for quite a while. And obviously through each of these, we've had stakeholder engagement. Fast forward to where we are now. We had our first public webinar in December of last year, and it discussed, historic conditions, current conditions, and future conditions. And then in March of this year, we had a public workshop. We at the state lands parcel. It was in the morning on a Saturday, and a bunch of you people came out, and we showed off some renderings. We got your feedback on some of the designs to date. It was a good day. A lot of people got to wander around the site. It's been locked off for 50 years. It's kind of a different experience when you're there. And what we have coming up, this is all very exciting. So next on deck, we break ground, believe it or not. Friday, October 24th from 10 to noon on site, we are hosting a groundbreaking ceremony. As someone who has been involved in the conservation effort for probably 20 years, I can tell you I thought we would restore the wetlands. I didn't think I'd be alive to see it. So this is a good thing, a very good thing. So if you can make it, please try and show up for the groundbreaking ceremony. It'll be a good time. We also, during the construction process, this is a good project. It's a thing to celebrate. We should be having a good time. So we're going to be looking to host 3 different mixers throughout the process at local establishments. And I can tell you that one of the mixers will be a trivia contest. You didn't know there was going to be a quiz, but there is. So I hope you were paying attention to Eric. He's not going to cheat and give you the answers again, just so you know. We will also have a virtual meeting during the construction process for people who probably like myself, who prefer not to leave the house and learn things while sitting here at home. We're also going to be looking for some tabling opportunities where we show up at an event and reach out to a new community, new group, and teach people that way. And then lastly, at the end of construction, we'll be having a ribbon cutting ceremony. So now we are at the question stage. Eric, I know, so I will talk about the questions in the chat. Eric, I'll read them to you. At present, we have 4 questions. When we are done with the chat questions, we will switch to the verbal comments. But first, we'll do the chat. Eric, the first comment was from Mary Cobb. I hope I'm saying it correct, Mary. Her comment was, or question, I'm sorry, will the power, and this is going to be a good one, will the power poles be removed? If so, which phase?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Mary. And with so many good things to talk about with this project, we overlooked the fact that, yes, this project intends to underground the power lines that run all along First Street through the middle of this property. That's a tall order, and we've been working with Edison for longer than we want to admit, but that is a necessity in order to create those view sheds that we were talking about. We don't want to restore these wetlands and have these giant power poles right in everybody's view. So yes, they will be undergrounded as part of the project. And in the first phase.
I would thank you. That was the follow-up. Good, thank you. Okay, Mary, and if either Eric or I haven't addressed your question, feel free to loop back in the chat and we can give another run at it. So the second comment, also from Mary Cobb, And I'm going to read this directly. How will the solar voltaic solar plant impact the development and use of the wetlands?
Yeah, thank you also for that question. And some of you may be aware that there is a project being planned on our neighbor's property, just adjacent to the southern Los Cerritos wetlands property that the authority owns, that is proposing just shy of 5 acres of solar panels. Um, the LCWA does not have a stance on this. My recommendation is people look into it and take their own perspectives. But I will say the mission of the Los Rios Wetlands Authority is to protect and restore Los Rios wetlands. And that project is proposed on a portion of the footprint in that planning area that was outlined in red. So it's within the authorities' areas that they hope will eventually be restored to wetlands.
Thank you. The next question is from Elizabeth Lamb. Hi, Elizabeth. And her question is, what kind of shade will be on the updated slab?
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. And I want to recognize Elizabeth Lamb with the Los Rios
Mhm.
Wetlands Land Trust, who has been consistent and insistent partner throughout this whole process, insisting that it goes the right way and that we're doing everything correctly and with good science, but consistently there to provide me with moral support a lot of the time and write a letter ultimately to help move this project through Coastal Commission and all the other hurdles. So thank you, Elizabeth. And the Land Trust also supports our education programs and has been doing a tremendous job. I can't even list the number of schools that have come out just the past school year. So we're ecstatic about the new facilities, and shade has been a topic with our designers. And I can say for sure we'll have better shade than Southern Marsh does. And we need to take a little more time to explore some of those shade features and how to make them safe and affordable to be installed on the property and used by the right people.
Mhm. The the next question is now we're back to Mary Cobb again. Is there a plan that addresses the unhoused population that may try to locate here?
Yes, thank you, Mary. And that's kind of what I was referring to. Make sure that facilities are being used by the right people. And we've had a mantra, whether you like it or not, about this site, and it's always been, we're concerned about having things that are too nice that may end up getting impacted by people performing non-beneficial uses of the land, whether it's a nice trail that somebody ruts or a nice sign that somebody writes on. And so we're trying to make it as bulletproof as possible so that non-beneficial uses do not impact all of the effort that has been put in to build these new facilities. And that takes a lot of thought. As part of making sure that the site is being used at the appropriate time by people that we expect to be there, um, keeping sight lines is really important. So we're trying to develop the site so that, especially where the community hub is going to be, we're not expecting to have it to be lush habitat. We want to make sure that people can, especially law enforcement, can see into the site and see and make sure that people in there aren't supposed to be there. Um, and also, we are redoing all the fences for the most part, and in some instances, putting in better, more secure fences. But ultimately, the thing that's going to change this area is all of the local citizens that are going to be using it all of the time. So we're anticipating having people out on these trails who are not going to let any type of non-beneficial use happen and keep people on the trails, keep them doing all the right things.
Excellent, thank you. So the two more, one comment, one question. The question first, it's from Robert Harmon. Who do I contact about contributing to the celebration? I would like to make a donation. Thank you, Robert. Eric?
Robert, you should reach out to Heather Altman and she'll share she'll share her contact information right after this slide. And if she can't take your money, which she
I
can't,
can take his money. I got this, Eric.
she will
I got
direct
this.
you
Don't
to
you
the
worry
right
about me.
organization to provide support. Because yeah, definitely we want to celebrate this monumental feat in the right way. So thank you, Robert.
Yes, thank you, Robert. And really, what we also want, I mean, we're joking about a contribution, but really, we just want you to get the word out and, show up and spread the word and tell everyone you know about this really cool project you learned about that looks really great. And they did a great presentation on. That's what we're really looking to get the word out to the community. The next, it's a comment from Mary Cobb again. This is so exciting. Good vibes, Mary. This is so exciting. Thank you all so much. You're welcome very
Our
much,
pleasure.
Mary. Yeah. And then we're back to Robert again. He says he reckons the area will be very well watched and protected.
We're counting on it.
Yep. So that's what we have in the chat as of someone with the initial C. This is a good question. This is one of my favorite features. Can you explain the experimental plots you referred to? Will these be structures or plots of dirt land?
Yes, thank you for that question. And
Mm,
what these plots are going to be are essentially rectangles that are all the same size, and there'll be 12 of them, and they will be at a certain elevation where the tides can currently come into them, but not very much. And they will be set aside, and all the permitting agencies fully understand this, that they will be set aside for whatever manipulations within those rectangles that researchers would like to do. Our thoughts are researchers come in and put different elevation of soil in there and plant different plants so that over time we can see how sea level rise may take place. But we have not defined the type of experiments necessarily, but we have created replicate areas. And this is a large area, over an acre in size, that these replicates all fit in. So they're large spaces for whatever variety of research people may want to do, where they actually are manipulating the ground and manipulating the vegetation. And while that sounds good, it's also a bit of a control freak mechanism because we don't necessarily want those things to be happening out of those boxes. Now, research will happen in other places, but not the type of research that's going to manipulate the landscape. We want the landscape um, to be able to naturally establish itself without researchers getting in there and messing with it. So that's how they're designed. But those will be part of phase two. So those will come later when we have the full title connection.
Now that's all we have in the chat. If something pops up, I will read that aloud. In the meantime, does anyone have any verbal comments that they would like? I haven't seen any. Robert, he loves the design. Y'all have done a wonderful job. We love Robert. Robert's going to be our friend here. I don't see any hands raised, so I don't think there are any. Robert concurs. He's our friend. Um, I don't see any more comments. I will close. I mean, y'all can still put comments in the chat, and we'll read them aloud for the last few minutes here. And if anyone wants to raise their hand, we'll call on that. But in the meantime, this is how you can stay engaged. The LCWA's website here, intoloscerritoswetlands.org. The LCWA's email address is lcwa@titleinfluence.com. And then follow us on Instagram at LCWA Authority. I will also say that we break the groundbreaking ceremonies at the end of October, breaking ground at the beginning of November. I am offering tours of the property. If anyone would like to take a pre-restoration tour, just hit me up. I'd be happy to take you out there. It's a leisurely, probably do it in an hour and a half at a really good leisurely pace. If you're at all interested in that, just let me know. I'd be happy to take you out there at your convenience with yourself, your friends, whatever you have. And I think Joe's got it. Joe has his hand up. Joe?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Eric very much for the great presentation. I think it really put the whole project into context and really, the manipulation of the images really showed exactly what historically was there and what we're going to see when it's done. So thank you, Eric, for that.
Of course, Joe. Thank you for your support.
Excellent. So with that, Michelle Smith has a comment. Thank you. I have done restoration and walks in the wetlands. This looks great. So the overwhelming consensus from the chat seems to be people seem to really like the design, which is great. It's a beautiful design. Everyone has just worked so hard. This is like I keep saying, it's a very good thing. So I think with that, I think this might be, thank you. It's time for the tides. And with that, I will close the meeting. And I will look forward to seeing you all on a moving forward basis at our fun events. Next up is the groundbreaking ceremony. Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening, and hopefully the Dodgers are winning.